All right, it's Wednesday. Um, Today we're going to work on this learning activity with advanced ASCII art and do that today. Just a quick announcement. I sent out an email, posted this here. Um, we try to share a lot of opportunities with you, so we're sharing. I kind of put together, these have been kind of floating around in different emails. I try to put them all together in one email if you haven't seen them in other places here. Some contests, conferences, and research opportunities that are out there. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of them are for upper level junior and senior students there, but it's kind of nice to be aware of these so then in the future you can consider applying. There are a couple that are available to first and second year students. I'll highlight those now. We have a programming contest here coming up, but again, it's hosted through DigiKey, one of our employers, and they require it to be juniors or seniors there. That's a fun programming contest. So in future years, you should consider that. Um, there's a couple of conferences coming up. We are sending 8 students to Afrotech conference for funding. We had applications actually that started last spring for that there. There's Indigenous Peoples in STEM conference coming up. This is a national conference. We generally don't send students to it because it's a huge national conference there, but it's in Minneapolis this year, so very close, and you can get access to that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We're not sending a group right now to that, but and the deadline is tomorrow for that. I just noticed. So I wanted to note that. One thing we do often send a group of students to is the Women in AI and Data Science Conference. It's great if you are in computing, particularly if you're doing a data analytics minor, or even if you're not in computing, if you're doing data analytics minor here. Registration is now open. I think we'll probably take a van down if we can get enough, if I can get 4 or more students interested in going to that conference. And that's just a regional conference hosted by the University of Minnesota and the Minnesota Analytics MUDAC organization, which is a big data analytics organization here in the state. The business career job fair is tomorrow over at UMD. Last week was the STEM fair. This is the business one. I sent out a separate email listing some of the jobs there for us. As far as research opportunities, these are good, especially if you're thinking about grad school at some point. Innovation Scholars, again, really targeted more towards like juniors and seniors here. We create an interdisciplinary team of 4 students and we do a project. We've been selected by Mayo Clinic to do a project for them this year. So it's all related to healthcare. So it's usually like a computing student or a data student, someone in like pre-med, and some people this year is mixing some anonymizing and healthcare data with some machine learning stuff. So probably someone from medical areas too, and again, it's on marketability. So there's usually a business student involved in that too. I'm going to be organizing about these robot arms upstairs. I'm going to be trying to organize a small group of students, but there will have to probably be students who have done the machine learning course for that, or at least know some Python for this. But another thing, it's often good for first and second year students is this McNair research program here. We run a McNair program on campus here, but we actually take students from all the regional universities here that come here, but we host it here. And generally what you do is you pair up a student with a faculty member and you spend the summer doing research on campus. Here this past year, I worked with a student and she was working on vision recognition systems, kind of in machine learning sort of stuff. And how you can we were working on a challenge where you were trying to detect cancer from X-ray data, sort of stuff. Um, but again, it varies the thing. And again, we usually try to pair up each student with a faculty mentor. And in computing, it's usually me because I'm available often in the summers for this. It has limited certain students, U.S. citizens or permanent residents, and you have to meet some requirement as far as like family financial aid or first generation stuff. There's we can give you more uh, information about that if you're interested in that. And the application priority deadline is October 15th. So feel free to apply or talk to me if you want more information about that. Okay, what are we going to do today? It's Wednesday. So we're going to go down here. We're going to do this advanced ASCII art stuff, and then we want you to post your results to the discussion area here. That's what we're going to do today. On Friday, we'll look a little bit at the assignment here. It'll be similar to this one in that you've got to download a project and modify a project. But most of the time on Friday, we'll spend doing practice problems and going over more if-then problems and stuff like that on Friday. Friday's kind of our review and catch-up day. Give you some practice doing these things. So let's do this ASCII art one. I'm going to go into this learning exercise. So in the early days, back in the old days, back when I was your age, we didn't have no fancy screens. We just had printer. I don't know if you ever, have you ever used a typewriter where you typed on paper there? So they have these things called typewriters. Some people still use them in museums or something like that. But when I first used a computer, we did not have screens there. It was a typewriter, electric typewriter. And so you typed in a command and then the computer would type in the response onto paper there. So everything was done on paper. I remember playing Oregon Trail on paper. Oregon Trail first came out in a paper version like that. And then so to do graphics, if you wanted to print out a picture or something like that, everything had to be on paper, of course, because that was all we had. And so we learned how to create images with different letters in different ways here. Now you think, well, what about these days? I don't know if you've seen any of the modern day, but one example of this I think is really interesting is this Diceify app, or anyone who's creating art with dice. So these are just six-sided dice here, and you can create different art, drop in the image, and it'll create your art from this sort of app. So if you just Google dice art, you'll see lots of images that people will create with these dice with six-sided dice. Because again, the one doesn't have much ink on it, but the six has a lot more ink on it for this. So that's kind of like what we're doing today. We're going to take an image. We get to use Chris's old dog image here. So this is our image. We're going to do it, and we're going to try to create an ASCII version of that. So to get started, we're going to download this project. You can download the zip file. I'm going to do this GitHub NetBeans one. So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to run NetBeans. Here's over NetBeans. I'm going to go team git clone. Team git clone. I'm going to paste in that URL here. And then I'm just going to hit finish. It will download that, and I'll say open project, and it'll show it up here. Now, it won't actually open up the file. It'll be up here listed in your projects. It's ASCII art generator, source, ASCII art, and it'll be here. So we want to open that up. So that, I think, is the easiest way. You can also download the zip file. You can save it. We can go there, open it up, and we have to unzip it, extract it. And then if I do that way, I can also go and open up the project, find it in my downloads, and open it up. So either one of these will work for this. I'm just going to use this one way. So either, again, you can do this or that. You just want to get this project opened up for this. So there are a couple images out here, and one of the reasons why we have you opening up is that in this file, there are some images. If I go look at this file, let's see, I think it's in the, no, that's not it. I'm not seeing my images. There should be images in there. Oh, here they are. Items, ducks here for that. So there should be images out there that you can try out for this. I'm going to start with the dog image here. Because that's the one that's shown in the example. So I'm going to make sure that the file name of dog.jpg.jpg is selected, and the other ones are commented out. And I'm going to try to run this, and it'll take a second, it'll try to generate a picture of that dog down here. Right now it doesn't do a great job, but it does a little bit of a job. It's kind of big. So you can hold down, I think, Alt and use your scroll wheel to scroll out a little bit so that you can kind of see the dog here. That's supposedly the dog there. So let's look at what this is doing. So this is what we'll see often here. In these more complicated programs, there's a bunch of import statements, and there's a class there. And then there'll be that's what we call these methods. We've been just working the main method, but now we're going to work in this output ASCII method. And you're going to put your code in here. Now there's a main method, and that's going to do a lot of work, and we're not going to modify. See, do not modify any code below this line. So we're not going to change the main method. Here it brings in an image, imports an image. It sets, converts that image, each color into a number there so that we can do it. And it sends that, or that list of numbers for each pixel in the screen. It's going to call output ASCII and ask what letter should that be. So what it's going to do is it's going to look at each. Let me go back to these images. So it's going to be looking at each of these pixels. This image is made up of individual pixels. And we're going to look at each pixel here and what its value is. And for each pixel, we're going to, convert it into a single number by how bright it is here for this. How bright is each? So some of these are going to be very dark, and so they may be 0, 1, or 2. And some of them are going to be very bright here, so there'll be, and when we do pixels, pixel values are always between 0 and 255. So each pixel will be some value between 0 and 255, and then we'll want to convert that into a letter. So your job is to modify this so that we're printing off different letters or different things here. So no, it just says if grayscale value, this is the value you're given for 1 pixel. If that is greater than 50, we print off a dot. Otherwise, we print off an M here. And again, I can try different values here. I could print off like an underline and then an X and run that and see what that looks like. It looks something like that. So your job is to try to do that and some suggested range, again, the grayscale values between 0 and 55, and you want to do at least 5 different levels of values here. So like maybe you choose, like 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, 200 to 255, something like that. And then you might want to refine it a little bit to see how it works. And then print off stuff. Now, what image, what value? So you should kind of look at these, the different keys. And some of them are not going to use as much ink on the screen. So we want to pick values that don't use that much ink here. So, you can kind of look at these. And so I would say maybe like a 0, that doesn't fill up that much of the screen there compared to maybe like a W. W seems to have a lot of the screen filled up. Maybe a capital W here. There are also like @ signs. You can try those for different values here. So you can see what kind of values work out well, and there are all the special like colon and period and comma and dash plus. So you can decide which of these letters you want to use for this to print off. So again, try to run this. I'll walk around and see how you're doing, and we'll want to put in multiple if-then statements to print off, try to get this to display a nice little ASCII art picture. Okay, so we got this up and running. I'm gonna try it the other way. I'm gonna say I'm gonna start below. If the grayscale image is less than 50, print off that. Else, if the grayscale image is less than 100, I'm gonna do that. And I'm just gonna duplicate this a couple times. And it's greater than 150 and 200.
Yeah, I think it's really, I think it's great. I think it's pretty good.
Now, next week we'll learn more complicated if-then structures here. So you can, like, when some people say you look at this, I want to check if it's greater than 0 and less than 50, for example. And then I want to check if it's greater than or equal to 50 and less than 100 or something like that. You can write those, and we'll learn next week with these more complicated structures. You can say if the grayscale value is greater than equal to 0, and we can put an and there. If the grayscale value is greater than equal is less than 50, do that. And then you can do another if to say if it's between 50 and 100. So you can do it somewhat like this, but we're going to talk about this next week. And again, it's hard to set these up so that you always are printing something out here. You want to catch every situation when you have these different if-thens. So this is actually not working. It's not printing out well because there's a bunch of values. If the value is 200, I don't print off any sort of characters. And I can't just put an else in here with these separate ifs. I can't just add, because these are each separate ifs. So if I try to stick an else in here, that is not going to work very well. So if I do an equals on else, again, we get different size lines here. And I can see if I watch to the right, the different size lines, and it distorts stuff. So it is possible to do that, but we want to stick with this more basic stuff where we are just stringing together a bunch of if then else's like this. And then your job is to figure out what characters to print out that'll be some nice different values of grayscale. So you can print these off and see.
There's a number of them. Let's use those loosely for any of the.
So one more thing, we're printing off ASCII characters and we have a list of those, but there's actually a bigger set of characters called Unicode, which includes lots of foreign language and stuff. There's only about 250 ASCII characters, there are 10,000 or more Unicode characters here for it. And you can actually kind of look at the Unicode characters. All the ASCII codes are Unicode characters, but so are all these. There's thousands of other characters here to try to represent all characters or symbols in all the languages out here. And there's lots of graphical images out here too. So you can try that. There's lots of different ASCII characters. You can also set then, if you want to print off a particular Unicode character, you can actually use a backslash and a U to say, I want to print off this Unicode character and print off a certain code number here. You can get that more complicated if you want. You don't have to, but I know some people like to play with this and try different character sets and stuff like that. I'll just warn you, some things in our terminal are just not going to print out. So some characters are just, because of the font that we use in our output, our font doesn't have all the characters generally in it. So you will run into some problems with that. So, okay, what do you do when you get kind of done? You've got a set of values here. You want to make sure you're doing at least 5 different output statements with different characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 there. That's minimum there. And so then we're going to want to share this. So you go to your discussion area. Let me make this bigger. And you'll want to create a new discussion and show things. So you want to complete this post up. You can post a screenshot, or you can just copy and paste the output here. I find either way for this, and comment on your favorite other art or other things here. So again, I could comment on a thread or start a new thread, paste this, and I could create my ASCII art here. Maybe do a little intro. Here is my version of the dog. And if I copy all that, and paste it in here. Now, one thing you'll see is that when you paste in here, if you don't do a screenshot, it's going to kind of look kind of weird. It's not, not going to resize things, and it's going to not use what we call a fixed size font. So not all the letters are the same size. So you can try to switch this to like code mode, and it should look a little better if you highlight it and switch the formatting to code here. It should look a little better. But again, it's kind of zoomed out. And especially if you have a big image, you might want to do something else. So if you want to do a screen capture, let's look at how you do a screen capture. So if I have this on my screen, I want to do a screen capture of it. I think the easiest way is to hold down Windows, Shift, and S for screen capture. Windows, Shift, S. It'll bring up your Clippy board. You can just drag and drop the size you want to grab. And then you can go over here and paste that in for that. Do a screenshot. Try to get as much of your picture. So again, I made this bigger and I zoomed out at a right level. Figure out how far you want to zoom out here. And then Windows, Shift, S will let you capture it, and then grab that. And then you can paste that over here. And then submit that, and then comment on 2 other people's artwork as you go for that. And again, you can try out some different images here. If you downloaded the zip file, I think there's only 2 other images, the ducks and items. If you on GitHub, I was able to add some more items, including Michael Jordan and a cat. I don't remember what the cat looked like. Let's try the cat. For this, let's see. There's our cat. That looks kind of scary. It's a lot of white in here, so maybe I want to be adjusting some of my values to get the cat to print out a little better here. Because a lot of them are printed out really high here. So yeah, try different things here. I know some of you are trying your own image. You can do that. You can download your own image, just save it in the same folder here. Save it as a JPG folder. I suggest you name it all lowercase here, and then just add that as a file name to open this up and read it there. You may have to resize it. So if you have one of these files, if they're too big, they'll get into problems. So here's my JPG file. If I edit it with Paint here, I can go in and do this resize pixels. So like these are 100 by 130 pixels. Some of our other ones might be like 200 I wouldn't go much above like 300 by 300 pixels for this stuff. So, okay. That's all we're gonna be doing today. So see if you can get that, see if you can get some art, post it. And again, as sometime before Sunday, you want to reply to 2 other people's posts. Sound good?